Hello guys, welcome to Online Web Tutor presented by Profotech Solutions team. I am Sanjay. We are learning Laravel Admin Panel Development Beginners tutorial, and this is our part number 35. Inside this video session guys, we will learn about how can we see the admin table and settings of form attributes. And also guys, if you are a beginner to the channel, then please don't forget to subscribe and keep watching our previous video sessions to get the clear concept about Laravel Admin Panel Development tutorial. So basically guys, in our previous video session we have developed a login form interface for our admin panel. So if I type login here, just get rid of all these things, and if I press enter, this is the login form that we have developed inside our previous video session. But if we want to log in from this form, means we want to provide an email address and a valid password to authenticate our admin user. But now from which table we are going to compare these credentials. So we are going to compare the email ID and password with our database table, something called TBL admins. And this is TBL admins we have developed inside our migrations chapter. So while going through this table, if I click on this table, go to structure, so we want to feed some values inside that, something one row. By picking one row, it means that we have email address and password. So by comparing these two values, we will authenticate the admin from this login form. So how can we feed the data inside this table? So back to editor. Inside our editor, as we go inside our folder called app, http, inside this http folder or something, we have a file inside this app folder. Here we have a file called user.php. So I'm going to make a model for our administrator table. So inside this app dot folder, I'm going to make a file, and the file should be something a PHP file, something called admin.php. So I'm going to inside this folder, let's create a file, and the file something called admin.php. File is creating. If I open the file called user.php, and I'm going to copy all these contents from this file, close this user.php file, go to admin.php, and I'm going to paste all the contents inside this file. If you go at the top, this is a file, and this is, instead of user, this is our admin file, which basically extends this is authenticable, and this is what it is using a package called eliminate foundation auth and the user. Now I'm going to remove the unnecessary things, something called notifiable. I'm going to remove all these things from here and also remove all these things from here. Let me make some formatting to this file. Now inside this block, we are going to use the table something called TBL admins. This is the table that we are going to use to actually store our values. So back to editor, and let's say that protected. And here we are going to specify our table name, and the table name that we are going to use something called TBL admins. Now back to our factory folder, because the factory folder basically stores all the factory which actually we want to put our dummy values to our table, or basically by using simple files. So if I back to database folder, inside here either we can create a factory file, or if suppose we want to insert only a single row, so for that we are just going to create a seeder file, and by the help of that seeder we will directly insert that row inside TBL admins table, what we had done inside our previous video sessions. So if I open class action seeder, as we can see that inline files or inline data we have inserted directly inside this model, inside this table. And also if I just click on class seeder, as we can see that also we had used about the concept of factory. So back to admin.php file, and let's say that also I'm going to make a seeder file inside this. So back to our terminal, and let's say that PHP. So if I make some zoom, so let's say zoom in, and let's say PHP artisan make something seeder, and this is admin seeder. So let's say that admin table seeder. If I press enter, this is my system error, so don't worry at all. Now seeder created successfully. Now I'm going to give the permission to this file, so let's say that chmod, and here is the permission to this file. So I'm back to editor. Inside this editor file, inside this seeds folder, we have a file called admin table seeder.php. Now inside this seeder file, I'm going to create one, basically the admin data to that table. So let's say data, This is basically an array, and inside this file I'm going to use something called use app. Inside this app folder we have called admin, and by the help of this admin we are going to insert the data inside our admin, something called TBL admins table. So back here, and let's say that admin, let's say insert, and insert this insert method I'm going to pass this data variable. And now finally we need to pass some of the data inside this array. So I'm going to insert only a single array. So let's say that inside this array what we have the keys inside this table. Firstly we have to pass the name. So if I copy this key, let's say name, and inside this name I'm going to pass, let's say online web tutor is the name, and also we have to pass an email address. So let's say email, and email is something a dummy value. So let's say online@gmail.com. Finally we have to make a password. So let's say password, and inside this password basically Laravel uses a hash method for that. Basically hash is a Laravel technique or a Laravel algorithm to convert actually our hashing password. So hash is basically use a static method called make. Inside this make method we have to pass our password. So let's say that it should be password something called online 123. This should be the password, and also we have the column called status which has a default value of 1. So we are going to pass only 3 values called name, email and the password. So if I save this file, back to our terminal, and before running our seeder file, if you back to again to editor and just open database seeder file, let me comment all these things first, and let's say that this call, inside this call method we have to pass our admin table seeder, and this is the class file. So I'm going to save this file, back here, and run the db seed command. So php artisan, let's say db seed. If I press enter, and as we can see that admin table seeded successfully. Back to browser, browse this section, and as we can see that we have now one row has been inserted inside our TBL admins table, where this is the name that we have supplied, this is the email address, and this is the hash password what we have done called online123. Now guys, this was the detail. Actually by the help of these details like email and the password, we are going to log in from this form. Means we are going to pass our email ID something called online@gmail.com, and the password should be online123 inside these text boxes. Okay, so back to editor, go to our files. So if I close all these files first, and login form.play.php. Now here inside this form I'm going to pass some of the attributes to this form. So finally I think that double quotes is missing here, and inside this form first of all we have to provide a CSRF token inside this. So CSRF, and this is the field function. Basically inside this form attribute we are going to add a action parameter, and inside here I'm going to pass a named route. So let's route. Inside this let's say that check login. Basically we have created a named route. So again if I get rid of all these actions, because this is a null void, and now this is our method action, I'm going to open now web.php file where actually we will set this named route parameter. So back to our routes folder, inside here we have a file called web.php, and if I scroll down, this is the login which is get request, which indicates about the form. Now I'm going to submit our form by using our post request, and this should be the method basically named parameter contains called check login. So if I copy it here, back here, pasting it here, and let's say that this is all about check login. It is also using the same controller called admin controller, and let's say that check login or check, let's say user login. Now next we have to define this method inside this controller. Back to admin controller, and here let's say public function. Inside this function, this is the method we have defined. Inside this method we want to fetch all the data actually this form will submit. So inside this form we are going to submit our email address and the password. So I'm going to pass the request object here. So let's request, And by the help of this request, we are going to actually take all the data from our form submitted. So let's print r for now, print r, let's request and all. So if I save all these files, back to admin panel, reload this page, and let's say that here I'm going to pass as the email, let's say online@gmail.com, and password something, let's say online123. So if I press sign in button, and I think that the form has some missing parameters, so go to login form, and obviously inside this input type email we have no name parameter, so let's say email, and here let's say name equal to password. So again back to admin panel, go back, reload this page once more, and let's online@gmail.com, and password something online123. So if I press sign in button, as we can see that now this is our CSRF token, this is our email address, and this should be the password. So by the help of these two parameters called email and password, we will validate our admin and authenticate to our administrator panel. So while going through the process of validating our admin, we will basically use the concept of middleware, and we will start about that concept in our next video. So inside this video guys, what we have covered so far, we have actually seeded our admin table, as well as we have added some of the attributes inside our form, and also we have made a method inside our admin controller. So inside the next video session guys, we will actually implement our middleware concept and validate our admin to basically authenticate inside our login form. So inside this video session guys, if you have any doubt, then please drop your comment. I will give my reply as soon as possible. So for this video session guys, thank you for watching. Have a great day.